what will happen when we put the tax as a whole? Of course, we already learned that government will be getting some money and consumers will have to pay more and producers will be losing some of its profit because market quantity will be decreased and so on. Those things we learn. But as a whole, at the end of the day, when we put or impose a tax, what will happen in the economy? To learn that, we have to take the two concepts that we learned previous class. Previous to previous class. Ne? That is consumer surplus and the producer surplus. So under equilibrium, we learn there are two concepts called consumer surplus and producer surplus. Consumer surplus is the additional gain by the consumer because of the equilibrium price. And producer surplus is the amount that additionally gained by the producers because of the equilibrium price. We discussed those in detail, right? So because if I roughly explain it again, we had equilibrium price as P asterisk, but this shows us the willing to pay depending on their happiness, the utility. Depending on the utility, consumers are willing to pay this much. But this is what they are actually paying. Because of that, there's additional gain. This A, E, P star amount is the additional gain to the consumer. Because consumer pays P star, Q star price and quantity. So this is the total cost to the consumer. But this is the total gain to the consumer because of equilibrium price. So the difference is EP star amount. That is known as consumer surplus. And here we are getting the producer surplus. Same way, this tells us the cost, real cost. That is why they are willing to supply. So this is the willing to supply curve or real cost curve. But this is the price all producers are getting from the market. So there's a difference between willing to supply price and actual price they are selling. Therefore, producers are getting P star, Q star amount as their revenue. But their cost will be B, E, Q star 0. This area. Therefore, there's a difference P star E, B, area. So this difference is known as the producer surplus. We discussed that we are having consumer surplus as well as producer surplus. Using this consumer surplus and producer surplus concepts, we can discuss the impact of a tax, which is called excess burden of a tax. As the word itself says, it is negative because an excess burden. Whenever we say burden, it's a problem to us. It's a burden, heavy burden, and excess means we are having some additional burden because of the tax. Right. So to get that, or maybe we finish and have a break a bit late today. So then we can finish this. So here you take the demand curve like this. So this is the demand curve. This is the supply curve. We had the equilibrium P star and Q star. Forget about the tax. If this is the case, what is the consumer surplus? It will be A, E, P star. A, E, P star will be the consumer surplus before tax. And producer surplus will be P star E C. P star E C will be the producer surplus. So the total surplus will be A E C. That will be to the economy. I told you, in microeconomics, we are not worrying who gets what, whether it is consumer, producer, or the government. We don't worry. Someone can take it. It is better as far as someone is taking. So therefore, the society can benefit like A, B, C. This triangular is the total benefit to the society. Now let's say we are putting this 40 rupee per unit tax. When we put the tax, what happens? Supply curve shifting leftward with the same amount of tax. So now we are having a new tax, a new curve, S plus tax. And we are getting into new equilibrium E1, quantity will be Q1, price will be P1. Now what is the consumer surplus? After tax, what is the consumer surplus? Before tax, it was A, E, P star. This is before tax. But after tax, A, E1, P1 will be the new consumer surplus. Very good. Because that is the area above the equilibrium price. This much we are selling, and this is the equilibrium price, and this is the area additional gain to the consumer. Then what is the producer surplus? What is the producer surplus after tax? Additional gain to the producer. What is the area of producer surplus? FEG. FEG is not. Before tax, it was P star EC. The area of P star EC is the producer surplus. That is the additional gain. That is the difference between actual cost and what we actually getting from the market. The supply curve means that is the actual cost. Depending on the cost, they are setting their supply. But because of the equilibrium, they are getting this amount. Therefore, that difference is known as the producer surplus, P star EC. But now it is BGC. That is what I wanted to get clear. Right? Area of BGC is not the producer surplus. Producer surplus, remember always, it is P1, E1, P star. This is new supply curve. This is the demand curve. This is the equilibrium. So above the equilibrium, we get the producer surplus, consumer surplus, which is A, E1, P1. And below, we get the producer surplus, P1, E1, P star. Right? Remember, that is the consumer, so producer surplus after tax. After tax, consumer surplus will be P1, E1, P star. Those who had done economics, of course, you will make this mistake because our teachers, they teach in that way. And this is not the producer surplus. This is the producer surplus, P1, E1, P star, because this is of the equilibrium. Then what is the tax? Total tax to the government. What is the tax area? Now our equilibrium is Q1. So what is the tax? Tax area will be P1. Tax area will be P1, E1, G, B. Why? This is the total selling amount. This is the total tax. Tax is 40 and this is the total selling. So this multiplied by this will be the total tax. If we put that with the area in a graph, it will be P1, E1, G, B. Right? This is the total tax to the government. Now we know A, E1, P1 is the consumer surplus. P1, E1, P star is the producer surplus. P1, E1, G, B is the total revenue to the government. Now, there's a problem. It's not a problem. If we had know this P1, E1, P1 star area or the producer surplus, we can easily calculate. Now it is times counted as producer surplus as well as total tax to the government. Therefore, what we do, we take P1, E1, P star out and put it here. Those who have done mathematics, you know easily. Even for O level, we do These two are parallel lines. These two are parallel lines connecting to this vertical line straight. Then these are the same. Area of P1, E1, P star can be replaced with BGC area. We get exactly the same area. This area equal to this area because these two are parallel. Therefore, what we do, we take P1, E1, P star produce a surplus, and for calculation, we put it here. BGC. Right. This is why BGC is known as producer surplus. Of course, it is not the producer surplus, but we put it for some calculation. I will show you why we did it. So now we are having A, E1, P1 as the consumer surplus, P1, E1, GB as the producer surplus, so BGC as the, P1, E1, GB as the government revenue, BGC as the producer surplus. Anyway, A, E1, GC is taken by someone. As I previously mentioned, we are not worried whether it is consumer, producer, or the government. If someone is taking, we are not worrying here. Of course, when you do welfare economics, you are worrying. But here we are not worried because it is benefiting the society, consumer, producer, or government. But the question, before the tax, A, E, C was the total welfare gain to the society. A, E, C amount was the total welfare gain to the society. Now, because of tax or the after tax, what is the total welfare gain to the society? It is A, E1, G, C, this area. Then what happens to E1, EG area? E1, EG previously was in the consumer surplus and producer surplus. What is happening to that area? Who is taking that? E1, EG. Who is taking E1, EG area? It is taken by nobody. Nobody is taking that. This is why it is called dead weight loss. It is a loss to the society. Nobody is claiming this area. If we had pre-market operation, of course, this dead weight loss will not be there. Now, because of tax, we have the dead weight loss, which is a loss to the society. Nobody is gaining that. Therefore, whenever we put a tax, there will be a dead weight loss. Some amount will be leaking away from the economy, which would have been in the economy. If it was with the consumers are happy, so they will be getting engaged. If they are producers, they will be happy because they have more gain in the economy, so they will be encouraged. But now, because of the tax, what happened? Even EG area is gone away from the market. It's a dead weight loss. It's a leakage from the economy. Right? So this is called dead weight loss of economy. Remember, whenever we put a tax, there will be dead weight loss. Dead weight size of the dead weight loss will be different. That is also depends on the elasticity. So when you have a free time, you can calculate different elasticities of demand and supply. And using different elasticities of demand and supply, you can calculate what is the dead weight loss. It is getting bigger or smaller. But anyway, we have dead weight loss if we are putting a tax. Now the question, should we pay tax? Should we have tax in this world? If it is a free market operation, of course, no dead weight loss at all. That is the best scenario. Pareto efficiency is there if there is no dead weight loss. When there is dead weight loss, Pareto efficiency is there. Condition for Pareto efficiency is there. We can further increase. So, should we have tax? Of course, that depends the way you explain. Right? You can take any side. For example, you see, now this dead weight loss is a loss to the society. It is getting away from the society. Nobody will claim. But we have P1E1GB area, P1E1GB area. We can take this area as the government revenue. It is the government revenue. So what government does with this money? If government take this money and invest in productive investment, let's say P1E1GB area is taken and invested on undergraduate education or school education. Then what happens? The behavior of the person will change. And if it invested on school education, the way that student think get different than a person who have no any education. So his production will be higher. When he graduate from the school or from the university, his production will be higher. Not only for 1 year, it will be for another 40, 50 years. And his behavior will be changed that positively affect on the society. We will be having less troubles. We will be having more innovations, productive processes. And this guy will change many other, his colleagues, family members, then his students, and some other people in the society. He will be changing from the next 50 years. So that is a gain to the society. So this loss, deadweight loss area will be greatly recovered from that gaining from this guy. And it will be much more because we are getting that social gain for 20, 50 years. Maybe if he dies after 20, we will be having 20 years. And if he is retiring at 70, it will be after 50, 55 years. So therefore, getting a tax is not a problem. The problem where we invest them, what we do with them. You can take a higher tax and put them in productive investment like education, like health, like building a railway, providing transport facilities for production, protecting the environment, getting the ozone layer depletion reduced. Likewise. So if we do these kind of productive investments, of course, the gain that we will have very much high. Because just take the case like your education. How many of you will come if we ask you to pay money? If you are supposed to pay 5 million rupees per 1 degree program, you need to pay 5 million to get your degree. Will you be coming to this university? Of course, many of you will not come. You came because of public provisioning. How government provide this education? It is because of taking this tax. So deadweight loss is there, but after your graduation, you will be contributing a lot to this country and for your lifetime. Therefore, tax can be justified how we spend. But if we take this tax, P1E1GB area is taken and put that on unproductive investments, like maybe briberies, corruptions, right? Personal gains of the politicians or the public officials, building some airports, ports or whatever, in the places where there is no any use. You have an airport without zero flight. You have a convention center without a single function. Not per week, but maybe for months. So then there's a problem because already you have this leakage because of the tax. Even G is already gone. We have nothing to do with that, but P1E1GB also gone. Then we are in the trouble like today. You had no productive investment, then you have no any gain. Now it is gone. Both this area and P1E1EGB, all these areas are gone. That is a loss to the society. So because we have know that recovery process. Therefore, justifying a tax can be justified with the way we use those tax. Therefore, we need to pay tax because you have taken your higher education because of tax. And since we provided your higher education, your return to the country will be very much high for next, at least for 20 years or 70 years, you will be contributing productively to this society. Therefore, we need to pay tax. This is the question I raised in the beginning of this class course, whether we need to pay tax. Simple answer is yes. But we need to be careful how we are going to spend those tax money.